back in civilization, there's 7 billion other living people on the planet just running around and blinking and breathing and eating, and you used to be one of them.
You were probably just looking for happiness. That's what everyone does.
This is what you look like when you're happy. You look for someone who will make you happy. A friend, a girlfriend, or a dog.
Good boy.
Good boy.
Sometimes you might be lucky enough to bump into the one person you want to spend the rest of your life with, and that is love.
Okay, you want to go home so you can have love.
Yeah.
But you ran away because nobody loves you.
That's not true.
You're broken and empty and dirty and smelly and useless and old. You're like trash, right?
Shut up!
What? I'm sorry, Hank. I'm just saying the things in my head.
Well, you can't just say everything that comes into your head. That's bad talking.
Oh.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Bros Podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How you guys doing tonight?
I'm all right.
Long time no see.
Yeah, how you guys
Yeah.
been?
I'm all right. Had a long day today.
Long day on a holiday?
Yeah.
Bruh, I had work, so it's just long. And it was just
Oh, okay.
very-
Cares about the troops.
very yeah, I salute you.
Save Mart said.
That's the same I said.
Yeah, seriously.
What about you?
I had a nice day, man.
Chill.
It was chill. Went to the gym, went did some grocery shopping, watched this movie, and contemplated my existence after. Yeah, I'm excited that we're getting to talk about this one because it's a movie that I think needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Isn't it wild to see their progression from this movie to Everything Ever All at Once?
It is insane, honestly, to think that they're the same directors.
It's not for me because I feel like the DNA is still there.
It's
like their style is
style,
immediate.
Yes.
You can see their style.
And
but
the way that they write is immediately telling of what kind of movie you're going to watch and who it's from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they took everything that they learned with this movie and multiplied it with
Yes.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But I do see the same DNA. Like, it's a very simple topic told in a completely absurd way.
Mhm.
And somehow I love it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if we talked about this during the Everything Ever All at Once episode, but did you know that they produced music videos?
Yeah, I know that their like most famous one is the Turn Down for What video.
Yes, they did. They edited that or what?
For Lil Jon. No, I think they like directed it. And
They did the whole
They
thing?
did the whole thing.
And I kind of understand that because some parts of this film are like, they're shot like a very chaotic music video. You know what I'm
Okay.
talking about? Like,
Yeah.
especially when they're doing
All
going
the
through the montage stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't it feel kind of like that same frenetic pacing as a music video?
A little bit. I can kind of see that, especially like when he's like chopping wood with like his hand, and
Yes.
shooting forks out of his throat and everything. Yeah.
I don't know. I liked that background kind of. I was like, oh, it makes sense why they would decide, like why they decided some of the things that they did.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up too because we just recently did an episode on a guy who got his start doing music videos as well, which was Spike Jonze.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you weren't able to tell by the title, we're talking about Nick's pick.
Yes, we were talking about the Swiss Army Man,
Mhm.
which they never say in the movie,
No, they call him
Surprisingly, though-
multi-purpose tool guy.
which is an interesting title to have for someone. But it is came out in 2016, was directed by Daniels, and I think it was written by them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it is on HBO Max, it's on Max, which I'm thankful for.
Yes.
Is that where you guys watched it?
Yeah, that's where I
Yes.
watched it.
Okay.
Yeah, I at first Max had like a streaming issue at
Did it?
first because I started it up and I was like, what's going on here? Like the picture was zoomed in. So like everything was on the bottom right corner of my TV.
Bruh.
What?
And I was like, what the heck's going on? Like the A24 logo came up and
It's usually
it
right
was
in
in
the-
like it was like usually right smack dab in the middle of the screen. It was in the bottom right corner of my TV. And I was like, maybe like it's because this movie is older, so this was like they're doing something different. I don't know. And then it kept going, and I was seeing stuff like being cut off by the TV that I was supposed to see.
Oh,
and I'm like,
no.
yo, I got to restart my TV real quick. So I turned it off, turned it on again, and started it, and then all of a sudden it was fine.
That's good.
So, yeah. But after watching it, I got to own this now. Like, I got to find it physically and add it to my collection.
Yeah, this is the one I bought with, it was the 2-pack on digital for Everything Everywhere and Swiss Army Man.
Okay.
Because it was when Everything Everywhere first came out digitally, and I was like, I can't wait. I'm going to buy them both. Why not?
Yeah.
I've heard great things about both of them, so I watched everything first, and I've obviously loved that, and then went to watch Swiss Army Man
Nice.
digitally. So.
Yeah, I remember hearing about this movie when it was being announced, and I remember watching the trailer, and the entire time I was watching the trailer, I was just like, what the heck is this even going to be about?
Yeah.
Like, this movie looks wild to me. Like, I don't even know why I would want to watch this. I'm watching a dead guy who farts, like, chop trees down and, you know, get these like things launched in his throat and then shooting them up so that way they can like climb up stuff and everything.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is this even going to be about? I never ended up checking it out. And I think I even felt the same way with Everything Everywhere All at Once at first, because I remember seeing the trailer for it and was like, I could probably go without it.
Dude, I saw this.
And,
I saw
yeah.
the trailer of this movie, and I kind of thought it was like the movie Warm Bodies.
Oh, where
That
love brings the zombie back to life.
Yeah,
Turns him back into a human.
that's what I like. Seeing the trailer of this movie made me think of that movie.
Yeah. I'll never be able to live Warm Bodies down in my household, because I remember I wanted to watch the movie, and my parents randomly were like, all right, let's go to Redbox and rent it, and we'll all watch it as a family. And we watched it as a family, and man,
Best movie ever?
no, it sucked. And I got clowned on hard. Like by my family, they were like, "Oh, Isaiah picks all the crap movies. Remember Warm Bodies? Oh, he wanted to watch it so bad, and this sucked. Oh," and all this stuff. And now, like, I'll never live it down. So
Shoot.
it haunts me.
Yeah.
But despite even after that, I've recommended great movies to all my family, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that movie was good." But you remember when you made us rent Warm Bodies though?
Bruh.
Warm Bodies, man.
Yeah, with Nicholas Hoult as a zombie.
Oh, it is him, huh?
Yep.
What a twist.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm excited to talk about this and unpack it a little bit. I
Me
felt
too.
like this is something that's like constant, like you had said with all of the Daniels movies, where they're about a topic that seems so incredibly simple, but they find a way to approach the topic in such a unique way
Mm-hmm.
where it seems completely fresh, and it seems like, you know, this has never been brought up in movies the way it has been before.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're talking about things like love and loneliness and the human experience, which is like things that get talked about all the time in movies.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Daniels approach the situation, it feels like new every time.
It does.
And I'm like, you guys are just so, like, you think about things in such different ways, and you find a way to relate things that seemingly have no connection back to these, you know, huge ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the same thing with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, anytime I hear the line Wayman says when he said, you know, in another life, I would have loved to just do laundry and taxes with you, that breaks my heart. And I'm like, it's because I know the meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And now I feel like the same way with Swiss Army Man, where like something as silly as a fart could like mean something so much to me now, because like of this movie and where they decide to take it and how they explain it and stuff. So.
Yeah, I love this movie. There's not much I could really say other than just I love it.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if this is, but it feels like one of the, especially the soundtrack is the soundtrack I have listened to the most of all of the movies.
Yeah, it's a lot of acapella, just bum 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 bum.
Isn't
bum,
it so
bum,
cool
bum,
though?
bum.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so creative, and it
Yeah.
makes me like just so inspired to just create or
Yeah.
just to be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
And it'll be successful
Mhm.
if you really care about it, you know. And yeah, especially that last song. There's an hour version of it on YouTube, and I have listened to that thing several times at work.
No.
Like, I'm not kidding you. At work, if I put that, it's just like you know how people put on classical music and they get in the zone and they're just able to work.
AutoZone.
I put that song on, and my mind is free. I don't know what it is, but it's incredible.
I get you. I feel that way with the Uncut Gem soundtrack.
It's got that like
Jittery, like fast paced. I gotta do this type thing. I'll put that soundtrack on and be at my computer just looking like a hacker, just going
typing away.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm excited to talk about it with you guys.
Too.
So you want to give us a brief synopsis and a spoiler warning, and then we'll get into it?
Yes, I will. So this movie takes place with a man called Hank Thomas?
Yeah, Hank Thompson.
Hank Thompson. He is, from what it looks like, stranded on a deserted island, and he is kind of at his wit's end. And that is until a dead body washes up on shore that seems to be more useful than a normal dead body.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of interesting things, the first one being farting. And we go into how they start to form a unlikely bond with each other, and how that kind of symbolizes a more deeper picture into Hank's inner self.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be a reflection of him through this dead body.
Yeah.
And they try to make their way back to civilization.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
All right. Yeah, so if you haven't checked the movie out, go do it. It's streaming right now on Max. So if you have that streaming platform, check it out. It is a great watch, and don't let anybody else tell you different. Go in with a fresh mind and know that this is going to be something that is wild and outlandish and absurd. And have fun with it, man. It's a funny movie, and it's also something that has a lot of heart and is really just human.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to talk about it. So as always, we're gonna start off with our first favorite scene.
Yes, I love the intro.
Me too.
The intro is awesome. You get this immediate setup of this guy on a deserted island about to hang himself.
Yeah, it took me by surprise.
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
For the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, I had originally put it in a bro moment at first because I was like, yo, our first introduction to this character is him wanting to commit suicide.
Yeah. They don't explicitly tell you like he's a deserted island, but the camera kind of pans in. There's ocean all in front of him. Looks like there's no end in sight. Even at the beginning, you get this like little juice box that says "Help me" on it, and you get like the trash. So he's like a washed up guy who's just been surviving,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like he's like on his mangy beard. His like clothes are tattered, and he's at his wit's end. He's about to, hang himself.
Yeah.
Until he sees a body. And he ends up he does hang himself on accident, and then the thing breaks, luckily. He goes and checks out the body. And this is immediately where they start to show how this movie is going to be played out. Because he straight up tells this, he sees this body, he goes up to it, and he's like, oh, tell me you're alive, I don't want to be alone anymore. It's obviously dead, purple and blue all over.
Yeah.
It's Daniel Radcliffe. And he's telling him, I thought that, as I was going to die, I would picture my life and see all of the wonderful things, like maybe there'd even be a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, and then I saw you and I thought, and then you just hear a purr. That completely disengages all emotions. It ruins the emotional tension of the scene, and he goes,
yeah.
And it's not uncommon for dead bodies to have flatulence at the end, like they're filling up with gas, they release it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem weird at the beginning. It's just like,
yeah,
like a weird that it's not supposed to be emotional right now.
Yeah.
So he takes the dude's belt and then goes and he's like, okay, now for real, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he's about to do it. And then he notices that he's trying to hum this song, and it's like almost symbolic for him. He's trying to get through it, but he's always interrupted by the farting coming from this dead body.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dead body kind of gets washed away, and then he realizes that it's kind of powerful.
Yeah, it's all straight up bubbling.
It sounds like a motor almost.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to make it seem not as absurd as it is. But it is. I mean, it is, and it's great.
Yeah.
Because he takes it off, and then this is the introduction of the whole cool soundtrack, because he starts going, ba 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 ba.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I love how it's like organically introduced into the movie.
Yeah.
And he goes and he realizes that this thing is farting its way off the island, and he's like, wait for me.
Yeah.
He gets on it and he's like riding him.
Like a jet ski, dude.
Like
Literally, that's jet ski. I actually audibly gasped because you actually get a still of them going, and his butt is out.
Yeah, he pulls
like
his pants
his
down.
pants are down, and it's just
Gets more
bare
power.
butt, and it's more power.
Yeah, I love it.
I was like, what the heck?
I don't know. I just feel genuine happiness because Paul Dano, he's like, at first he's like, what the heck is going on? And then he
Yeah.
grabs the reins and he's like,
Yeah, going.
he's going, and the soundtrack is going all crazy, and I'm just there smiling. I'm laughing. I'm like, this is awesome. I feel a human success right here.
Yeah. I was laughing too in this instance too, because whenever they're riding off, it like does the title card.
Swiss
and-
Army Man. He's
Yeah.
going,
And you see like Paul Dano, and it's like a shot of him like all happy and stuff. And then it says Daniel Radcliffe, and you just see this dead guy just going.
like one eye is like smaller. Doesn't he look
Dude.
dead, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks dead. He looks rough.
Yeah,
I
And
love it.
I was laughing at that, and then just seeing like this wide shot of these two people just going. Ah! Yeah, I thought that was super funny.
Yeah, it reminds me of the SpongeBob movie when they're riding on freaking
David
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 Yeah,
Hasselhoff.
and his
Yeah.
chest.
yeah,
It's the same kind of vibe right there. I love it.
yeah. That's my first favorite scene as well.
Okay.
My next one is, I think, a little bit. It's a little further into the movie where Hank starts to explain life to Manny.
This is my next favorite one as well. I love it.
Yeah, and I love the scene because I like that Hank has to teach Manny like he's a kid.
Yeah.
And like, he's asking him all this stuff, and like you see all this trash everywhere in this cave that they find once they get on land. And they find all this trash, and they're bringing it all around and looking for things that they can use. And Manny, once he finally says, "Hey, buddy," and freaking homeboy punches him.
I died.
Yeah, he punches him, and then he's like, "Why did you punch me? Why'd you hit me?"
I thought you were dead.
Yeah, and then they, eventually start bringing all this trash in, and Manny starts asking him like, "What is this? What is this stuff?" And he says, "Oh, it's trash." And he goes, "What's trash?" And he's like, "It's stuff that people didn't want anymore. It might be broken, like these sunglasses, or empty, like this pizza box, or just not usable anymore. So people don't want it anymore. So then they try to hide it and bury it, so that way, nobody has to deal with it anymore."
Doesn't he even say like, "Oh, so like you?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, so, yeah, you're like trash then." Like basically because you tried to run away, and you only ran away because nobody wanted you. No one likes you. And like,
He's like, "Don't say that.
Yeah.
That is bad talking."
yeah, and he just starts wrecking him. But it's done through like a child like innocence, where like they don't know what it is that they're saying.
Yeah.
And I just love this whole scene, man. I started to really like it whenever we see Hank kind of like projecting the things that he wanted for his life and what life was supposed to be like onto Hank. And he was like, you live your life in accordance with people, and you're supposed to find someone that you love, or you have family that you love, and hopefully you find that person that is the one that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and they can be your partner or your wife or something. And then after that, you two live happily ever after together, and all this stuff. And then again, Manny is just like, "But you don't have that."
Yeah.
Like type thing. And so he's like, "So obviously you're not happy because you don't have the things that you're saying that it is that you want." Anything like that. I'm probably not doing the scene too much justice, but
Yeah, it's kind of hard. There's a lot that they go into. I mean, he asks all kind of childlike questions about literally the meaning of life and what it means to be alive, and all these things that are almost like we just take for granted.
Yeah.
Because then he even sees like a picture of the magazine with the women on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What are those?"
Yeah, he like falls over and lands on it, and he goes, "What is this?"
and he's and he kind of goes in, and they have the whole talk about
the female anatomy
and
all that stuff.
it gets a little outlandish.
Yeah.
Which leads into my next favorite scene, which is
Yeah.
when he gets an erection.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I die laughing.
This was a bro moment for me.
It's a bro moment, but it's one of my favorite scenes.
It's my favorite because throughout the film, he's he's acquiring new abilities. The first one we saw was him being able to produce water.
Which is
Yeah.
Kind of makes my stomach churn, dude.
Yeah.
When he spits it out, he's going. He's
Yeah.
like, the water's coming out.
Yeah.
Anyways, the
why
next
does he drink it? That's what I wanted to ask.
he's like
He's dying.
Yeah,
he's like starved.
dehydrated,
He's
starvation, and he just kicked his water cup, so he
Yeah.
has no water. And then that dude starts producing it, and he's like, "I'm gonna
Yeah.
try this."
Let's go. Yeah.
Anyways, the next one is, he's telling them, "Oh, these are women. It used to be really hard to get these magazines, and when I did, I got really in trouble for it because parents don't want kids looking at that stuff."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, like, what would you do with them?" And he goes, "Oh, you make stories up. Like maybe this one her name would be, what was it, Janice or Jenny or
Something like that.
And he starts to say like, all the nice stuff. Like you would just take her and maybe you guys would watch Netflix together. And he's like, "What's Netflix?"
Yeah.
All this stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And then he starts to he hears his heart beating,
Mhm.
and he's like, "Oh, maybe if I really get him riled up, he'll come back to life."
Yeah.
And he starts to tell her he's really telling him the
Going in
detailed story.
detail.
Like maybe you would have kids and you'd go together and you'd be riding the bus and everything would be great. And then he
He
looks
starts.
down.
His heart starts going. Ding, 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 ding. And you look down and you see something. A tent is getting pitched, man.
Paul Dano goes,
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it is funny too because then we find out that he's only looking at the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition thing that they found, and when he takes it away, he finds out the erection follows the magazine kind of, right? Is that because it starts moving around
But I think it's pointing towards where to go.
yeah,
Yeah,
it eventually it is.
Yes.
But I was
At
trying
first.
I was trying to remember why it was doing it at first.
I don't know, I
Because,
think it was
it
just-
starts
well-
going crazy.
Well, because he kind of shames him for it. He goes like, "Whoa!" He's like, "Oh, I know I'm wrong. Something's wrong with me." And he goes,
Yeah.
And then he has to kind of reassure him, like, "No, that's fine. It's what everything happens." Then he's like, "Let's just take this away."
Yeah.
And then it still happens. It gets it goes up, and he
He gets what?
It goes up, it go up, and then he moves it with a stick, and then it recenters himself, and he's like, and then he kind of gets down to its angle and aligns his eyes, and he's like, and he follows it,
Yeah.
and he realizes that's the direction to go where people
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
And again, it's this absurdity that it's topics you never talk about getting an erection, about being alone with yourself in your own time,
Yeah.
and all that stuff, and how it plays into the shame that it brings, and
Yeah. I
the
think
stuff that you always want to hide away, like a fart. You don't do it in
Yeah.
front of people.
Yeah, I was dying laughing at this scene too. I think whenever they bring up the topic of sex, right? And he was like, I died laughing when Manny was like, "So that cork you put up my butt, was that sex?" And he's all, no, that was not it. That was
Yes.
to stop you from farting so often.
Yes.
And he keeps going on about okay, well, what is it, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved this whole scene too. It wasn't a bro moment for me, but it is super essential to the movie.
Yeah.
So, what do you got, Abe?
My next favorite scene is when it's actually right after he figures out that his part is pointing to where to lead, and so he's trying to think of a girl because he sees the phone and she keeps on wanting to look at that.
Mm.
I mean, keeps on bugging can I see that phone? Can I see it again? Can I see it again?
Yeah, because they this is after they got scared by the thing that took a huge dump.
Yeah, because
The bear.
everything
And then they
pooped.
they roll down the hill,
Mhm.
and then his phone plops out in front of Manny, and he sees his screensaver,
Yes.
and is like, "Who is that? I want to see that again." I had this whole thought in my head where she's the one.
Yeah, and Manny kind of like, or not Manny, Hank.
Yeah.
He kind of, this is like a hinge of the film where he says like, yeah, that's your phone, and you have to find this lady.
Yeah.
And I think he does that because
No, because he doesn't say it's his phone right then and there.
I think he knows that it's his phone. Or he's trying to put all of these things onto Manny. Because I think that he thinks that the more Manny becomes human, the more powers he's going to get, the more that he's able to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's almost like manipulating him that way, but I don't want to call it that because it's like he's just saying like all the memories.
You.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to because why I think because he's like ashamed.
Yeah, and he's trying not to kind of like take accountability for his own actions.
Yeah.
And is sort of projecting them onto Manny.
Yeah.
So
Because Manny's like, well, maybe if you like wear the dress and look like her, I'll begin to know who she is.
yeah,
I'll find out her name.
yeah,
Well, he'll start to remember.
Yeah.
yeah,
And he does.
And that's what I like, 'cause it's so like funny to see. One, Paul Dano creeps me out. Like he's just a creepy person. I think. I mean, you see him in just regular pictures. He's just creepy.
And it doesn't help that he always plays the weird roles.
Yeah,
You
it
think of
doesn't
Prisoners, you think of Joker, or Riddler,
yeah,
Batman.
So so seeing him here and then seeing him in a girl, like it was weird because he still had his beard. He didn't shave it off at this point, and it was just so like weird. And then I really liked it because it was again you see like Manny's heart just start to warm up and start to his like personality shine,
mm-hmm.
and just to feel he starts again to get an erection, and like his smile like almost like hurts him,
yeah,
and he's like, oh, this is what smiling's like,
yeah,
and it was just super nice and wholesome, and I liked it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For that.
For sure.
yeah. My next favorite scene is whenever they're building and riding the bus.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, you want to take it?
You go ahead. Go for it.
I have like a very bare bones description of it, but eventually they start to find out that the picture that was taken of this woman on the phone is on a bus,
Mm-hmm.
and Hank starts to explain to Manny that people that ride on buses are not fortunate enough to have their own cars, so they all get together and they ride this bus, and they don't talk to one another. They will sit there and like read a book or listen to some music or something like that. And Manny's like, they all get together and sing? That sounds great. And he's like, no, they all listen to their own individual music. And then, he starts to build like this like makeshift interior of a bus.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they listen to their music like this, and he like puts these little like makeshift earbuds that's like rope and like pencil top erasers like in his ears, and he's like puts it in his ears, and he's all, well, what would I do after I'm done listening to the music? And he said, well, usually you kind of like stare out the window and watch the scenery go by or something like that until you reach your destination.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I just loved about this entire scene is Hank's dedication to making Manny feel what it's like to be alive, even though he is dead. And like he is trying so hard. And I think why I like it so much is just seeing the juxtaposition from where we started with Hank and how he was ready to leave this world, to no longer, partake in any of these things that seem so mundane.
Mm-hmm.
But he is going through so much effort to try to make it feel as real as possible for somebody who has already left it.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, he starts to like get Manny excited for life, but also kind of makes himself excited for life in a way as well.
That's true.
And the whole time I was just smiling and tearing up and like just watching them interact with one another and like having these little like sequences where like Manny's like walking onto the bus and he's like strapped to Hank, and so he's sitting there going, walking down the
Oh, when
hall.
he puts the sunglasses on?
Yeah, and like all this stuff, and they're talking about like, okay, well, in a real scenario, this woman would like sit across from you and she would be, you know, writing in her journal or something like that. What would you go over there and say to her if you know, if you liked her or something like that? And he kind of like, you know, makes Manny look over, and Paul Dano's in the whole getup. He's like in a makeshift dress and wig and all this stuff, and he even like shaved with with Manny's teeth. He like made him shave, and they're, you know, sitting together, and I love that Manny like sees her and he's like, kind of looks over and is like, I want to put my lips on your lips.
And he's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's too soon.
Yeah, and he, you know, he says like, you got to come up with something else or something like that.
What does he even say before he sits down? He's like, are you sitting alone? Are you a freak or something? He goes, what? He's
Yeah.
like, you're not a freak anymore. He sits down.
Yeah, and then he's like, goes even further with it, and it's like, I want to put my penis inside of you. And he's like, you can't say these things. Like, you cannot. No. You can't do that. That's not how this interaction works. And he goes, well, maybe if I just started like with the beginning of it, then like we could decide if you want to go all the way or not. And he's like, no, even then that's still too much. You can't do it. Then they, you know, start having a conversation with one another about, you know, why it is that they're riding the bus. And yeah, it's just a wholesome scene where I love watching Hank just go to the extreme length to try to get Manny to feel as human as possible.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of all the shortcomings that Hank has in his life. I mean, this woman is significant to him. We come to realize it's his phone. Yeah. And it's the lady. And we get these weird flashbacks of him on the bus, kind of looking away from her. And, you know, he even goes to say, like, well, what would you... Manny goes, well, what would you do? And he's like,
I don't know.
I'd probably just sit here and wait.
And go home and eat a box of pizza.
Yeah. like he's a failure.
I suck at this stuff.
Almost like it's happened before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's cool to see him, you know, excel and be like, I'm going to be the one to talk to the girl finally. Like, I'm going to finally live out my dream that I've always been too ashamed to do.
Yeah, and this is why I think Hank is such a relatable character, because in all of our lives, how many of you guys give like the best advice to like a friend that's in need or something like that, but you never take it?
It's true.
Like you never take your own advice.
Yeah, it's
but
always easier
like,
said than done.
Yeah, exactly. And you like willingly give it out to somebody else, but then when it comes to you, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that.
No, I can't. But it's hard.
Yeah, and Hank is that. He knows all the things to do. He knows how to approach a girl and you know what he should do and what he wants, but is too scared to do it and ultimately like too embarrassed because he just, you know, has this fear of rejection. And because of that constant fear of rejection, he just, you know, puts himself further and further into loneliness.
Yeah, and he even starts to believe some of the lies, like he's worthless, like he's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Kind of all the things that he's saying to Manny.
Yeah.
You're just a dead person. You're useless.
Yeah.
You're ugly.
Yeah, that has one of my favorite quotes actually, where it's a what's it called? An exchange between the two. And Hank says, "It's because I'm just a scared, ugly, useless person." And Manny said, "But maybe everyone's a little bit ugly. And maybe we're all just ugly, dying sacks of crap. And maybe all it'll take is one person to just be okay with that. And then the whole world will be dancing and singing and farting, and everyone will be a little less lonely."
I love that.
And then Hank says, "Manny, you have no idea how nice that sounds."
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of the most beautiful messages there is.
Yeah.
It's just be you, and then when you find someone who accepts that, then you're going to be full of joy.
Yeah.
Never let that person go.
Yeah.
Love that scene.
That goes literally next to my favorite scene, which is like I'm sorry.
He had a stroke, man. That literally next scene.
Hit it. What's it? What's the scene? What is it? Explain it.
All right. What's your favorite scene?
When Manny gets all these new powers, basically.
Yeah, they happen. They happen quickly.
Yeah, he gets like
he started
fires. Like he started fire. Like I think it's Hank, right?
Yes.
Hank like finds out his arms can like snap, and it like makes it happen.
Yeah.
So he does it, and they start like to dance around and just enjoy life, basically. And my favorite scene was actually, I marked it down as my favorite scene when I saw them reenact Titanic.
Oh yeah, he's teaching him about movies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
He's doing that whole like shadow.
Yeah, like paper
play.
theater
It's-
type
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
so they make
So
they make a
creative.
little tent and make like a paper theater, like you said, and they basically show the Titanic hit the iceberg and it falls down.
And, like Superman and E.T. and
It was
yeah.
so cool to show like a little kid was like literally he's a little kid.
Yeah.
So I liked it a lot.
Yeah. I also like this scene too whenever like we find out that Manny can be used like a gun.
Yeah.
Like,
when he
they
puts
like
the
put like a little
pebbles-
like hopper and pebbles in there and they start hitting him on the back and he's just going like just like
In the
shooting
water.
stuff and
Dude, they kill the raccoon.
yeah.
They kill
Yeah.
the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you caught it. Did you hear the song that was playing when this scene was going on?
I remember hearing something like I want to pay a mortgage or like some lyrics like that where it was like like talking about mundane things.
Well,
that,
it's
like-
so this is one of my favorite songs. This song is called Montage.
okay.
And it starts off with them saying "pop popcorn," and because they just popped the popcorn with his fire hands or whatever.
Yeah.
And the whole lyrics are them like saying what they're doing. He's like, "Now we killed a raccoon. I'm using your body. He has a machine gun now." And he goes on and says like, I think I'm enjoying your company."
Oh, okay.
And it's a real like if you listen to the lyrics, it's super funny because he's like, "Are we falling in love?" And I don't know.
That sounds great. I think that's one thing that I do want to do is come back to the soundtrack definitely
Yeah.
because I was a fan of too of how they bring it up in the movie organically where like you know Paul Dano's character Hank will like randomly start humming and be like, "Oh man, I'm trying to think of this song that my mom used to sing to me," and it's like, "Crazy, I feel freaking crazy."
And then you hear the hum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love it.
Yeah, and it brings into this whole song. I enjoy it as well.
Yeah, good
Um,
stuff.
But from here, my next favorite scene isn't until the end.
When the bear comes, or even more ending.
Even more to the end.
Oh, okay.
So if you guys got anything before that,
I like when the bear comes.
okay.
I think it's kind of the whole reveal of the movie too,
Mhm.
a little bit because they're it's when he's like, I think they're drunk and they
Yeah, they find vodka.
yes, and they have a whole
Somewhere.
party
Mhm.
and they almost kiss, and then they go and they're walking and they fall into the river and he has to kiss him to get the air, and they make it out, and then I don't know what they're doing, but I think they're making up camp, and then he goes to go use the restroom, and he realizes that he's right next to cars,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets service, and he pulls up her Instagram and sees the pictures of
Yeah.
Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
He sees her and she's got a husband,
Yeah.
and he goes back, and the bear comes, and I think this is also they're both like trying to talk over each other, saying like, "I have something really important to tell you. I have something super important." And Daniel he wanted to call him Daniel Radcliffe, but he's like, "I have something," and then he's like, "Well, no, look, we're almost there. We're almost home. Like, there's cars right over there." And then he goes, "Yeah, but there's a giant raccoon over there smelling our food."
Yeah.
And he looks at it, it's a freaking bear.
Yeah.
But it's when he notices that the phone falls and Manny sees Sarah with a new guy,
Mhm.
and he's like, "Well, what is this? What is happening right now?" And like his powers seem to fade,
Yeah.
and he's I love that scene where he's like loading him up,
Yeah.
and he's about to like hit him to
Yeah.
shoot the bear, and then he just goes,
And lets them all fall out of his mouth.
he's like, "What the?"
Yeah.
Trying to. I love this whole scene. The bear comes and like gashes his leg,
Yeah.
and then he. I'm trying to remember. Do they rocket up?
Yeah, they like somehow get over the fire, and Danny is on Danny is on Hank's back. Sorry, I keep saying Danny because Daniel.
Yeah.
And Manny. Manny is on Hank's back, and he like farts on the fire, and it like it propels them up in the air
on the tree.
and like they see like a whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I think Manny says like, "That looks nice" or something like that, and then they end up falling like down this tree and they land.
Yeah.
And they end up having a conversation where they're like, "Who was that on the phone?" All that stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of heartbreaking too, because this is like, I almost want to think it's what Manny is saying is what Hank is feeling,
Mm-hmm.
because he's starting to say like, I want to be
You-
dead again.
Yeah, and he started even saying like, "You made me fall in love with the person who is already somebody's."
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't know if this makes any sense, but I want to be dead again. And he
Yeah.
even says like, I understand.
Yeah.
And he falls to the bear, and
Yeah.
the bear straight up like he falls, breaks his leg, and the bear straight up grabs him and is dragging him away.
Yeah.
I thought this was wild. I thought for
Yeah.
sure he was gonna die.
Yeah, me too. But then Manny comes to the rescue.
Yeah, well, they start talking again about like we're all gonna die and get mixed up and become crap,
Yeah.
and everyone's gonna become crap, just mixed
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And then Hank is like, I don't know, that sounds kind of nice. Kind of gives us something to look forward to. Like one day my crap will eventually meet up with your crap, and we'll be together again.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that gives him like the spark he needed to Manny needed, but he starts to like gain control finally of his body,
Yeah.
and he comes down and he farts the bear away, catches on fire,
Yeah.
and I just loved it.
Yeah. Same. I even love too. I think this takes place before then. I didn't put this in my favorite scenes, but I did want to talk about it a little bit. Whenever they have like the makeshift party and Hank is still dressed as Sarah, and they're sitting down outside and they start talking about playing with yourself.
Your own alone time.
Yeah, and Manny out of nowhere is like, "Sarah, do you do this?" And he's like, "That's not something that you ask somebody." And he's like, "No, just answer. Just let me finish. Let me tell you where I'm going with this, because I have a friend named Hank who does not do it. He says that he doesn't do it, and I think he doesn't do it because when he tried, he like got caught by his mom. So anytime he's ever tried to do it, he thinks of his mom, so he doesn't do it. And
He takes off the wig and he's like, I told you that in confidence.
yeah, he was like, "That was between us. You're not supposed to tell anybody that."
And he's like, Sarah,
Yeah.
Sarah, like he's looking at the wig, so he puts
Yeah.
it back on.
Yeah, and eventually, Manny starts going through this whole thing where he starts saying like, "I found out that like that stuff at the end of it usually makes you pretty happy, and my best friend Hank doesn't want to do this, but even though like he knows that like it would make him happy, and it makes me think, why would somebody not want to do something if they know that it would make them happy, like riding the bus
Mhm.
or being with somebody that you like, or like and then just starts listing off all of these things that also simultaneously make somebody happy, but then like loops it all around again to still being about masturbating." And like when I was listening to this whole dialogue, I was like, I started getting like teary-eyed again, and then I remembered like they're literally talking about jerking off. Like only the Daniels could do something like this, where they can like take something that's like as silly and like juvenile
Mm-hmm.
as this seems and make it feel like larger than life and
Mhm.
like relate it back to something where you're like, I didn't see it going there, but you took it there and I get it, and I see where you're going now.
Mm.
And I love that scene too.
Yeah, definitely a good one.
Yeah, but the last one here for me is the ending.
Yep.
And eventually what happens is they end up getting out of the woods, and
Manny is now the one carrying Hank.
yeah, because his leg is broken, and Manny, brings Hank out of the woods, and they happen to stumble onto a home. They, fall around and all this stuff. There's a child playing in the backyard. The child starts screaming and is like, "What is happening?" and all this stuff. They try to explain it a little bit and saying like, this is Manny, my name is Hank. And then all of a sudden, the mom comes out to get the child, and who is it? Sarah. And it's, the person on the phone. And so Manny sees that and is like, oh. And then Hank also sees it and is flabbergasted as well. And they end up having this whole thing where, ambulance comes and, they say that they've been wandering around in the woods for a little and they need some help. And, like, I found it to be such a bro moment, too, whenever, like, Hank finally gets the opportunity to actually, like, say words and talk to this woman, like, in real life, and cannot do it still. And, like, she's like, well, are you okay? And he just keeps going.
Shaking his head, no.
And she says, do you need help? Like, he can't get the words out and just cannot speak to this woman for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, the ambulance comes and, Hank's father ends up coming, and news station comes and all this stuff, and is like trying to get an interview with Hank. And, like, they try to pull a fast one on you, I think, because the interviewer starts calling Hank Manny. And so whenever I saw it, I was like, wait, Manny has been Hank the entire time? Like, what? Like, I'm not understanding it. Now he's Manny? He's been Manny this whole time?
Right.
Like, what's going on?
Right.
And then, like, the police officers are talking. This made me mad, too, whenever they are talking about Manny's dead body. And they're like, oh,
probably a piece of crap no one cares about.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, he's a bridge jumper. He washed up on shore alongside this guy, and we'll take him, to the coroner's office, but he'll probably be there for 2 weeks, and nobody will come and identify him because nobody cared about this guy, and the county will end up paying for the funeral and all this stuff, and he'll get locked away in some funeral home that nobody will ever visit because no one cares about him, and the entire time, Hank is hearing this, and he, like, walks over and is like, no, I care about this guy. Like,
he saved my life.
Yeah, this guy saved my life. Like, he, you may feel one way, but I feel the complete opposite. And we're not just going to let this happen to this guy. Yeah. And while that's going on, the news reporter is trying to get Hank over to do an interview for the news. And he's doing that, and then, like, his dad is walking over with one of the police officers to identify the body, which is Manny's, but they believe it's Hank's, or they believe it's Hank, and his dad comes over and is like, I don't even want to see it. Like, I can't look at this, and starts to walk away, and Hank kind of avoids him.
He does.
A little bit.
It's his dad, I think.
Yeah. And he kind of like...
That's why the ending is so confusing to me.
Yeah, he kind of avoids him a little bit and, like, walks around the van and then, like, makes sure to, like, turn around whenever it looks like maybe he could potentially look in his direction or something. And the lady starts to interview him on the news and is just like, Manny, what are you doing right now? What's going through your head? And he eventually says, like, no, my name is Hank. My name is Hank Thompson. And I wouldn't have made it out if it were not for this guy back there. His name is Manny, and he's the one that got me out. And they all start to kind of think that he's a little crazy. And I'm forgetting why he starts going on the run.
Well, he takes the body. He takes Manny. I think he's taking him back to the ocean.
Oh, okay.
So he's taking him back because at this moment he feel like Manny goes into his dead again. He doesn't talk. He has no powers, no nothing. And the whole time he's trying to get him back alive. He's like, no, don't leave me. So he takes the body all the way back through the woods. And kind of the plot twist of the thing is that, like, he wasn't very far away at all. Yeah. He wasn't really even on an island at all. No. And he's swimming down the creek. Everyone sees his creations. And then he brings him all the way down and is telling him, like, all these, really impactful stuff. And then he finally farts himself. And then he whispers something to him. I don't know if the subtitles caught it. Did it?
No, it's inaudible.
He just whispers something and then farts away.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really liked about the ending is that you were you were saying last episode, whenever you chose this movie, that the Daniels had said that their goal with this movie was for the first fart to make you laugh and the last one to make you cry.
Mm-hmm.
And they got me. Because, like, at the end of this, you know, Hank is talking about, like, how, you know, basically, like, all he's learned on this journey, and talking about, you know, how Manny saved him and he helped him realize a lot of things. And, you know, he's trying to get Manny to come back and show these people what it was that, you know, he can do, so that way he doesn't seem crazy. And one of the things throughout the film another thing that hit me pretty hard too, which was another favorite quote of mine, is Hank, like, will not fart in front of anybody. He, like, does it by himself. It's something private that he does. He'll go away or he'll hold it.
Yeah.
And, you know, he just doesn't do it because he doesn't want to be embarrassed. And one of Manny's retorts to that is, I have it written down. I don't want to butcher it here. Manny says, "If my best friend keeps his farts from me, what else is he hiding from me? And why does that thought make me feel so alone?"
Mm.
And I, no joke, heard that and I was just like, oh man, like that kind of hit me. Like, I don't know why that hit me so hard, but it did. And that has been like a constant thing throughout this film, where you never hear Hank do that at any time, but you're always hearing Manny do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Hank finally decides to let one loose and, you know, kind of farts, and everyone has this, like, nasty, disgusting reaction where they're like, ugh, like, and, like, covering their nose and all this stuff, and they're like, what the heck?
Paul Dano was like,
yeah, and then he goes, I did that. That was me.
yeah.
And, you know, starts to walk away. The cop's putting handcuffs on him.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as he's, you know, bringing him away, they start to walk back up the rocks, and then they hear another.
That wasn't me.
And, yeah, he looks back, and they're like, dude, come on. Like, I
Yeah.
told you to not do that anymore. And he goes, that one wasn't me. And they turn around, and they see Manny on the floor farting like he was in the beginning of the movie, where, like, his whole body is, like, you know, jolting around and stuff. And, you know, Hank ends up getting away and, you know, kind of pushes him towards the water, and Manny starts taking off and starts
Everyone
jet
is just-
skiing, and everyone else is just like,
What
the heck are we looking at?
Yeah.
And as he's, you know, drifting out to sea and, you know, going out into the unknown, it's like a final shot of his face, and he's just like smiling as he's walking, as he's, you know, floating away, and then it goes back to Paul, and he's just gives him a last little smile, and it's a fitting farewell for the characters that we've watched throughout.
Yeah,
throughout
it's
the
like
film.
Hank learned something.
Yeah.
Learned to accept who he is.
Yeah.
His situation.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I was wanting to get your guys' opinion on, was the ending of the film. Do you think it's, you know, was Manny a figment of his imagination? Was he real the whole time? Was it, you know,
Because they don't definitively. I mean, they give you kind of evidence for both theories. Is he real? Is he not real?
Yeah.
I have my own thoughts, but do you want to go first?
I didn't think about that. I want to say he's real.
Okay.
I can't argue with the ending. Everyone sees him fart away. They're like, "What
Yeah.
the f- is happening?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say he's real.
Okay.
I just don't think he's real. I don't think he's real. I think the whole movie is more poignant if he's not real.
I think so too.
I think it has a way better theme if he's not real. The whole idea of a Swiss Army man that can fart like rocket, that can, you know, snap and create fire, that can spew water or air out of his mouth, is really absurd, and it's just supposed to be like a psychological manifestation of his shame, of his of the person he wants, like, that he needed.
Yeah.
To not be alone.
Yeah, or it's like an actual personification of his, like, depression or mental illness that he deals with, and how that can, like, literally feel like carrying around a dead body.
Yes.
Like, you have to put on your baggage every day and
Right.
carry it and deal with it.
But I also don't deny that there is a dead body. Like, I think at the beginning he finds a true dead body,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just carrying it with him, but it's not doing all those things. He's just
Imagining it.
yeah, he's creating all of that in his
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And he's using this because he almost like he literally projects all of his insecurities, everything onto him.
Yeah.
He says that you are Manny.
Mm-hmm.
So which is why at the end I was like, "Oh, he's Manny."
Mhm.
He was calling himself something else so he can like be distant from his shame and his guilt
Mhm.
of one not farting in front of people. Sure, that's the surface level, but it's also like he's ashamed of that he wants love and he doesn't think he's worth it. Like
Yeah.
he's ashamed of who he is.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what Manny was. That's why he gave, "Oh, that's your phone. This is who you're trying to find. This is what's her name? It's Sarah."
Yeah.
And then at the very end when he gets called Manny, it's like, yeah, this the whole time
It was with me.
the
Yeah.
journey was going like using his imagination to work through his problems
Yeah.
through this dead body, which just happened to be him.
Yeah.
Which is why the ending, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Is it real? Because he farts away and everyone sees it. Is that also supposed to be some sort of symbol?
Yeah, I don't know.
But literally Sarah goes, "What the I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think it works better if he's psychologically not, or just a psychological construct.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no real answer.
Yeah, it's true. It's up to the interpretation. It's ambiguous for a reason. But I like to think it's that, he created him and he did it all under the disguise of like being cathartic and like trying to work out his own issues and problems.
Yeah.
And ultimately projecting that onto a corpse.
Yeah. And finding a way through it.
Yeah.
I think
Finding a way, yeah, ultimately to like humanity and like being human and being unapologetically human and letting people know who you are. So
farting.
yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm saying where it's like the Daniels can take something that's as like juvenile as farting and be like, but that's how you really let people know who you are. You fart in front of him, you get comfy.
Everybody
you let them know
poops.
that's who you do. Everyone does it.
Yeah, everybody
know?
poops just like that. You breathe through the pipe
Yeah.
and says everybody poops.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like stuff we're ashamed of, but it was what makes us human slightly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, I don't know.
Yeah. But that's it for favorite scenes for me. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, let's get into some best quotes.
Okay.
My first one that I had written down was, I think whenever Manny first spits out water for the first time and Hank drinks it and he looks at him afterwards and says, "You're the grossest thing in this gross world." And I heard that and was just liking that.
Yeah, I have one where he says, it's when he figures out his whole erection thing. And he goes, "Manny, I think your penis is guiding us home."
Yeah. That's a good one too.
I laughed at that.
Yeah.
Good.
I have no other quotes here that I
don't
haven't
have
talked about.
any.
No.
Okay. Let's get into some bro moments then. So obviously the first one for me was getting introduced to Hank the way that we do in the beginning of the film.
Right.
But then also like Manny farting for the first time. And like just being so caught off guard by that. And
Yeah.
being like, what? Like this dead person just washed up on shore and now they're farting. Like, what's going on? But yeah, I have a ton of other ones, but let's hear what you got.
The first 20 minutes for me for this film was like a bro moment. Like when he got on him and it was like jet skiing away.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, bro, what is happening?
Yeah.
I did not that is not what I expected. This
Mhm.
I was not expecting this. So I was just like, what?
It's wild. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
For the first bro moment is the water coming out of the mouth.
Yeah.
When he's like gets his cup and drinks it, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's so gross.
Yeah.
Definitely nasty.
Yeah.
I think it's water, right?
Yeah.
it looks like it is.
There's a lot of it too.
Yeah. Yeah, another one for me was Manny getting a bone ski and
Yeah.
using it to guide them home. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty funny.
Boneski.
Yeah. Or them like rolling down the hill after they find that big turd.
Yeah.
And, rolling down the hill and having that whole thing happen is another bro moment for me.
Yeah. Dude, shoving that thing down his... It's like huge. He shoves it down his throat
And then,
launches it till they get out of there.
yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah. Yeah, and like straight up the whole, like that whole sequence of like Manny like karate chopping trees down.
Cheeks?
And, no, I was going to say cheese, but trees down.
Cheeks.
And like just all the other outlandish stuff that they do.
Yeah.
Like it's...
Shaving with the mouth thing was wild, too. Tell me that wasn't like kind of
He's just
nasty.
straight up going with his teeth. Like,
I've seen it done before.
Dude, you got to have the sharpest teeth for that.
yeah.
I've seen it done with piranha teeth.
Not human teeth.
Piranha teeth?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. But yeah, every other bro moment I have written down, we've kind of already hit on.
I think we've hit every one, and
Dude, him getting the bone ski in front of the little girl.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. That
happened, and even freaking Hank was like, "Yo, no, don't be scared." And she's like on the floor crying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough.
That was wild.
Any other ones?
That's the last one I could think of.
All right. Let's get into some facts with the bros then.
All right. Hit us with the budget, man. After that yawn.
sorry, I yawned. But the budget to make this movie, it took $3 million to make it. Opening weekend, it made $105,453.
Oh.
Gross for U.S. and Canada made $4.2 million. Excuse me, and gross worldwide made $4.9 million.
Nice. So it made its money.
It made its money
It's good.
Wow.
by the hair of its chin.
There was a return.
Yeah, I had listened to an interview a while back, and it was such an interesting topic. The interviewer asked them, "This movie is so absurd. Why would you decide to do something like this? Like, why would you do this? You're literally a dead person that are doing weird and gross things. Why are you doing this?" And they go on to say, like, these are the roles that we look for. These are the roles that are unique, that are like saying something. These are not something that we shy away from.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny Radcliffe is like, I am so glad I got to do this role because it's something so different and so like new and like groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And that's how he described his time in this and that he was thankful for it. I was like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
so cool. It's not something to be. He wasn't even ashamed of it.
Yeah.
No matter how weird it was still. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
and
cool
I've
for him.
even seen that he considers this his favorite role.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Do you think it's his best role or no?
I do. For as many of the Harry Potters that I have seen, I haven't seen them all. I definitely think he gives his best performance here. And that's like weird saying that
As a
because
bad
like
guy.
a lot of the times he's just like like but he like has a way of like coming to life, and he really kills it here. And
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his performance alongside Paul Danos.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Talking about Radcliffe real quick, they had to make a fake version of Manny, but to be used in most of the film. But Daniel insisted in being in every shot, so the dummy was only used in shots where the stunts were too dangerous for him. But he would still throw and toss the dummy.
That's funny.
I
So
think
he
it's
made
funny.
sure he was going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was even seeing too that Daniel Radcliffe would promote the movie by touring Los Angeles and New York City with the Manny doll as his companion, and he would attend interviews with it, fan conventions, and even ride roller coasters with him.
Bruh.
It's gotta look
Imagine
real,
seeing-
right?
Well, yeah.
That's awesome.
Imagine
Yeah.
seeing two Daniel Radcliffes.
Yeah, it'd be
But one's like,
pretty wild. Yeah. Yeah.
great. I thought it was cool. There's a little cameo. The cameraman at the very end is the guy who produced the soundtrack. His name is Andy Hull.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah.
The guy with the beard?
Guy with the beard.
Nice. I was also seeing too that whenever this movie premiered at the film festival circuit, people
Dude.
were walking out of the film within like the first like 20 minutes of it just because of all the fart jokes.
They're too highbrow.
Yeah, and people started to leave, and like some of the people like didn't even finish the movie because of this, and like it got booed a lot at the film festival circuit,
Wow.
like in Sundance and Cannes and all that stuff.
That's
That's
wild.
insane.
That is
Yeah.
so wild.
Did you know this is the only film in history to feature a credit for a fartist and a kisser?
Wait, really?
Yeah. And they couldn't be prouder about it.
Oh, wow.
That's funny.
A farter. That's great.
A fartist, yeah.
That's funny. The last one I have here is in regards to the beaches that are used in the movie. The production team actually couldn't afford to shut down the beach for filming, so they had people hanging around all the time wondering what it was that was going on, and you know, seeing Daniel Radcliffe and wanting to know what's happening. And the production team would try to tell these people that they were filming a mayonnaise commercial to try to get them to
like, be
like, you know, like leave it alone. But it ended up not working, and locals ended up catching on as to what was going on and all this stuff.
mayonnaise. They said, bro, this is stupid. You don't want to see this. It's just mayonnaise
Yeah.
on the beach.
Yeah.
That's great.
Any other facts with the bros here?
That's it for me.
All right. Well, let's get into what didn't work.
I kind of found myself a little confused at times with how Manny worked. And maybe I just kind of rewatched the movie. But I just was like, well, because I still kind of find it confusing. Like, how does he get his powers? And things like that, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I was trying to nail down that answer as I was watching the movie, and it's kind of difficult. I think the more he becomes, like, the more he's closer to love, or the more he becomes human, the more powers he acquires, right?
That's what it seems like.
Because that's the whole reason why he dresses up as Sarah,
yes.
Yeah.
so he can find a memory of his past.
So it was just a little difficult for me. So that was just something that I didn't like.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go straight to the ending. I just think it's a little, just kind of muddies the whole theme. And I would rather them have just made a definitive statement, and I would rather have them just been like, it wasn't like somehow he was like a figment of the imagination. I think that just would hit so much harder. It would create a stronger theme rather than it just being like, because I don't know how to reconcile, like, he's alive. Is he really, how, you know, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
water spewing out of his mouth. Like, he's like, these are impossible things. How, this is literally a dead body.
Yeah.
How is he alive?
Yeah.
And how do I reconcile the ending with all the things I've seen? It kind of is like doing this in my mind. I'm like, if that wasn't there, it would be like great.
Yeah.
It would have the impact that I was looking for.
Yeah, I get you. I don't have anything written down in this section specifically because on a first watch, it all works for me. So,
For sure. That's all I had, though.
okay. Well, what does work then?
I enjoyed this movie. This movie's weird. This movie's very weird. But I like weird because I feel like I'm weird myself, you know?
Yeah.
And when I first watched it, I had to watch it in 2 parts. But when I the first part that I watched, I was like, "What the hell am I watching?" Like I didn't get it. And then but I enjoyed it. I was like, it kept me entertained. It kept me wanting to keep on watching, because I wanted to know what was happening, because I don't know what is happening. So that's something that I really didn't like. It was entertaining because I don't know what was happening. And I want to know what's happening.
Yeah, entertaining is the right word for it, man.
Yeah.
I just think, how can you not be entertained by all of these just completely unique ideas? Like, I love that they recreate all this stuff in this like jungle bush and all that stuff, and they recreate the bus, they recreate all the movies, the dancing scene or the party that they have. Everyone's like trash that are hanging, you know, every time Manny is moving, you see like little strings holding him up, doing all this, you know. It's so creative and it's so consistent throughout the whole movie, which is why I love it. It's so unique.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the writing here like hits home. It is, like you had said, incredibly original, and I love that the Daniels came out with their first film not afraid of risk. and like risked putting their names out like on a project that could have like failed horribly. But luckily, you know, in terms of box office return, it made its money. But they had also found like a little bit of a cult following like for them, and people, you know, came around this film and surrounded it with love, and then they did the same thing even more for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
And I have to say that these guys are just some of the most original minds in Hollywood right now, and they are making movies that no one would dare to make, and they're doing it in such a phenomenal way. And I have to say I really enjoyed this movie. I love how unique it is. There's no other film like it. And like this film may take inspiration from other films and all that
Jurassic
stuff, you know.
Park.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
got what's the one where the dude's dead and they're controlling
Weekend at Bernie's and all that stuff. But it takes all of that and mashes it up together so well where it becomes something uniquely its own. And I feel the same way with their second effort. Like, and I can only
even more so.
Yeah, I can only hope like that mindset and the way that they write and the types of topics that they tackle in both films will continue in their next effort. And I just can't speak enough about the writing and the direction. These guys know how to make a film, and it's crazy that like they made such a great movie off their first try, and then the second one where they're like, let's make it even better.
Oscar winner.
Yeah, crazy.
That's crazy to me. Yeah, in the soundtrack here, there's no, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it's like there are portions of it that are actually Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe making the noises, singing the songs, and I love that. I love that they're a part of that. And then the actual soundtrack, the songs, even at the end, I just think it's so like creative. Again, that same theme, the whole, it just feels freeing. And there was that one time when I was sitting in my car and I was listening to it, and I just felt like an overwhelming sense of like, I don't know what it was, but I just felt so like grateful for all of the things that I had in my life, all of the, like, I just felt so successful. And I was crying. I was really crying because I had so much emotion, and I haven't encountered very many soundtracks that do that. And this is one of them that did, and I can't listen to it enough.
Nice. I do enjoy the soundtrack here as well. It's something that does work for me, and it makes me want to come back to it. Like, it makes me want to put the soundtrack on and listen to it for myself, but also like rewatch the film just so I can, hear that soundtrack again and go through all of these motions again with these characters and all that stuff. And I think, the rewatchability for this film is high. So that's another thing that works for me as well.
Yeah.
Anything else for what does work?
I think actors are great. They
me too.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe kill it.
They've got insane chemistry.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. Yeah, and I have to say, too, I think the cinematography here is beautiful as well.
Okay.
Seeing the way that the film looks, like with all these huge redwoods and the ocean shots and all this stuff, and just the way that they make things look. And I think even the way that the movie is edited is really slick.
Yeah.
So
it's fast-paced.
There's a lot of, like, blue-green.
Yeah.
For sure.
So anything else for what does work?
No.
All right. Let's see who wins the movie here.
I did Daniel Radcliffe.
I did too. I did too.
Honestly,
Me too.
He is so great. Paul Dano obviously kills it, but Daniel Radcliffe brings a joyous, like, childlike wonder to it.
Yeah.
Asking all these insanely, outlandish questions that get us engaged. It's just, he's awesome.
I hear Swiss Army Man and I just think about his face. So it's just like,
how does he do that thing with his eye, bro? How? Like,
yeah.
One eye is huge and one eye looks like it's recessed. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
And that's him.
Yeah.
That's literally him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I have to say the same. I think he kills it in this movie. Yeah. He ultimately wins it. Any themes here?
I mean, other than what we've talked about, self-acceptance, I think, is a big one.
I wrote down the human experience and the brevity of human life.
Yeah.
The what?
The brevity of human life.
That's a big word.
Brevity just means like short amount of time.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you've only got this exact
This
amount of time.
Yeah.
Boom. It's, you know.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I took away from it immediately. And then after dissecting it more, looking into like the mental illness side of things and
Loneliness.
yeah, how we carry our demons and ultimately how we deal with them, and like you said, self-acceptance and all that stuff.
I had heard someone describe, or they said, like, they were saying all the stuff that we had talked about earlier about him, you know, being a physical or a psychological manifestation of all of his guilt and all of his shame of all that stuff. And he says, like, he even goes to name him Manny, which is humanity. So it's like, you know, it's like the humanity of him, which I thought was cool. I never thought of Manny as anything else other than it's just Manny.
Yeah.
You know? But so it was like humanity.
Okay.
That was pretty cool.
All right. Anything else for themes here?
That's it.
All right. What are we rating this? I'm going to go off the bat and give it a 9.
Ooh, all right. That's pretty good.
I enjoyed this movie quite a bit.
Yes. It's definitely not a 10 because Everything Everywhere All at Once is a 10.
Yes.
I'm going to give this one an 8.
Okay.
An 8.
I gave it 7.5.
All right. Well, that's the end of the episode, you guys. So if you stuck all the way to the end, we appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment as well. Let us know what you're thinking. If you're listening on the audio platforms, leave us a rate and review, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and let us know what you're thinking there. Ultimately, we want to get your guys' input and see exactly what you're thinking whenever it comes to, you know, how we run the show, the layout, things we could do to possibly get better and all that stuff. And we can only do that with your guys' help because we are stuck in our ways. So, yeah, help us out if you can, and join in on the conversation. I want to, you know, have that comment section and review section. I want that to be a space for you guys to, you know, also chime in on things that we may have missed, or just, you know, for you to rant and rave about the movie that you liked, or maybe to, you know, tell us why you think we're wrong, or anything like that. So. If you don't want to do that on any of those public platforms, you can click our episode descriptions and message us privately, whether that be our email address that's in the episode description, or our Letterboxd accounts, or the Instagram that we have. And you can follow us there, or let us know what you're thinking on those platforms as well.
Yeah.
So, as always, we're going to
so
reveal
excited.
the pick for next week, which is Abe's pick. So, Abe, what are we going to be talking about next week?
I am choosing the 2003 film School of Rock.
I love this film.
School of Rock is...
It's been a
goated.
while since I've seen it.
Me too.
No, this is a film that I don't even have to rewatch. I can tell you the whole movie front to back without
Really?
watching. It's got to click for you.
Yeah.
School of Rock for me.
School of Rock's great. I
Let's
love
rock.
this movie.
Let's rock today. Oh, dude, I love it. And the ending song.
Yeah, it's great.
From what I remember, it's great, like you said. So
Yeah. And it's even crazier to think that Richard Linklater is the director of the film.
Blows my mind. If you like films like Before Midnight, Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, same guy.
Yeah.
Same freaking guy.
Yeah. It's wild. Would have never have pegged him to like do a movie like this, but sure enough he did.
Yeah.
And it's great. School of Rock is a classic.
Absolute classic. And I honestly, I love Jack Black.
Yeah, me too.
Like I can't think of a role that he's done that I hate. I'm not lying.
Really?
Like, he
Yeah.
is so versatile as well.
Gulliver's Travel.
I haven't watched that one in so long. Is
Yeah.
that bad?
I think it's bad.
He's just
And he's
such a-
wholesome.
Yeah, he's a wholesome,
He's a very wholesome
likable
dude.
guy.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong
No.
with him. Like he could do no wrong.
No, he's
You
like
know?
a Keanu Reeves in that way.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. I like Jack Black a lot as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be checking out School of Rock. So tune in next week to hear what we have to say about School of Rock. It is streaming on Pluto TV for free and Paramount Plus if you have that subscription. So check it out and then tune in next week to hear what we have to say about that film. As always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.